are. It's 12:30 and time for our very first online Stump The Strategist for 2015.
Happy New Year!
Happy New Year, happy holidays, happy everything else we're celebrating, and very glad you can join us today. Now, for those of you watching online, we know now already that you're obviously sitting on something. You've got a marketing challenge, a problem with strategy, something you've been
maybe a Christmas present you didn't like, something's going on.
Today, we're going to solve it. So I'm Adam Long, the General Manager at Step Change Marketing.
Ashton Bishop, Head of Strategy at Step Change.
So this is Ash's first time joining us for one of our Wednesday online sessions. We do run these every 2 weeks on a Wednesday at lunchtime so we can get your challenges solved on the spot. Now, as Head of Strategy, Ashton leads our projects when it comes to marketing strategy, brand strategy, finding the next breakthroughs in businesses, looking ahead the next 3 years, what's going to make all the difference. So today is a great opportunity to take advantage of this brain right here and get your questions answered on strategy. So, this is Stump The Strategist. It's a little bit like the Gruen transfer meets Whose Line Is It Anyway, and a little bit of Mr. Squiggle.
What we're going to do is we'll take any question on marketing, communications or strategy. We'll put 9 minutes on our little countdown timer behind us, and at the end, the online audience will decide whether we're stumped or whether we're passed. With that fine line between bravery and stupidity, why not?
Now, we tend to move quite quickly during these sessions, so for those of you just logging in now, don't worry, you haven't missed the best bits, they're yet to come. And if you miss anything throughout today's session, the recording will be online on our website at www.stumpthestrategist.com and also on the blog at stepchangemarketing.com.
And that would be the brand new stepchangemarketing.com website, wouldn't it, Adam?
It's definitely worth a look.
Definitely worth a look.
So, there are 2 ways you can ask questions today. First one is using the chat box in the GoToMeeting window there. Put your question in the chat box, it goes to our beautiful assistant. He's so attractive, we can't even show him on camera. We'll pass it up to us. We also take questions by email.
That's Dave. Hi, Dave.
Hey guys.
Great face for radio.
I'm a great face for radio.
So, you can email us at stumpme@stepchangemarketing.com.
Was that stumpme@stepchangemarketing.com?
That's exactly what it is, and Dave will put that in the chat window for you. We've had a few questions come in over the holidays. Those of you who spend your holidays lying in the pool with a little Lilo for your BlackBerry next to you, thank you for sending through those questions. So, just as the last few people are logging on now, we'll let you pop your question to that chat window, or we'll go straight to one of our emailed questions to us. Dave, are people ready to ask questions, or should we go to the emailed questions?
I think we should go to the email, Adam.
Yep, thank you very much.
All right. Here's a question from Adam.
So, one of the questions that have come through over the last couple of weeks is from Marcus Bennett. Marcus, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Marcus Bennett, and Marcus's brand is called Redwood. So, Redwood. So Marcus offers certified IT management training, and he's given us a bit of backstory in the question, which I hope you don't mind if I skip over, but you've made the transition from a large corporate to going out on your own. Now, what sounds interesting here from your question is you can offer high quality accredited training, which is as good, if not better, than what the big organizations already offer, but Marcus can do it at a significantly cheaper price. So no training room, no overheads. Now, Marcus needs to get through to companies with an IT department with more than 200 people. So he says he's worked with Combank in the past, needs IT departments of more than 200 people, needs to get through to the right person who's interested in training and development and can make the decision for these departments. So just a little bit more background for you, Ash. Marcus has mountains of experience in the field.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Quality materials and access to a team of very experienced trainers across Australia. So the challenge is, how does he get to the right people?
Nice.
Do you have any clarifying questions for Marcus? He's online, so you can...
Marcus is online, is he? I guess my only question would be, beyond price, what's the differentiator or what's the value?
Right. So Marcus, if you just pop an answer in that chat
So
box.
beyond price, what's the differentiation? What's
We got him on audio here.
Sorry, you can hear me now?
Hey Marcus,
that's unreal. Hey Marcus.
Good, good. That's a good question. In terms beyond price, what the differentiator would be, I think there's a lot of people who sell training who are salespeople.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And who are focused on the sales rather than on the providing a solution. And I think because of the experience that I put in, that I have, I'm able to more customise it, make it more suited to what they're trying to do.
Okay. Unreal. Good answer. Thanks, Marcus.
Thanks, Marcus. So we're going to put you back on mute. I hope you don't mind. When we do these live, we have one rule, which is you can't throw in any interruptions once that 9 minutes.
That's really
starts.
easy with a mute button, isn't it?
Makes it simple. So we've got the clock, we've got the question, we've got the strategist. Let's get the 9 minutes started for Stump the Strategist.
Okay, unreal. So, Marcus, what I want to do is start with a concept called predatory marketing. Now, where you said price cheaper was the starting point, makes me really nervous. Obviously, there is only two strategies. If you go back to Porter, you believe it. There's the low-cost provider, and then there's differentiation. Now the thing is that there's only one player who can ever win the true low-cost game, and if you go in under the low-cost umbrella, you can end up just getting yourself into a price war. Price wars then mean that someone cheaper comes in, and cheaper comes in, and cheaper comes in. You effectively end up sucking the value out of the service. You end up cutting corners, and it ends up being bad for customers. So while price might be something that gets you over the line, we suggest you never lead with it. So when you're talking about deal with a solutions provider than a salesperson, that's interesting. When you're talking about customization, that's interesting. But out of all the different messages you could go with, the question is which one's the most powerful? And the answer to that starts with predatory marketing. Predatory marketing is defined as strike at the weakness that arises out of your competitor's greatest strength. We've got reams of this stuff available on our blog, but essentially we strike at the weakness that arises out of our competitor's greatest strength. So we start asking, who has our money? So if you're looking to establish a niche, to grow a market, you need to start by not asking, who are my customers? You need to ask, who's got your money and what do you need to do to get it back? So you identify whether people are trying to do it in-house or they're using an external provider. You find out who's got the largest pool of money, what their greatest strength is, and then you position your advantage against that.
It's a really good point, Ash, and look, absolutely the first place to start is making sure that message is as powerful as possible. So, Marcus, looking at some of the words you used in your questions, like quality materials, experienced trainers, but these are the same words that every other training organisation are using as well. So just claiming quality isn't enough. It's about building it to that next level and that predatory positioning that really breaks through.
Because value is what you pay, or what you get, over what you pay. So it's making sure that we're really differentiated in explaining the value and what people get.
Great. All right, fantastic place to start. So the next thing I want to look at is the nugget in the question was how do you get to the right people and get them across the line? And for businesses like yours, working with businesses like yours, what we found is that LinkedIn is actually a really powerful way to get in to begin with. Now, of course, you're using LinkedIn already. It's great to be running a campaign through LinkedIn, but you need to pair that with activities offline because a purchase like this won't happen online. It's going to happen after a face-to-face engagement. So what I recommend is once you've found the right people, you send through a door opener. Something, we often call it chunky mail. Something that's going to get their attention, is going to go directly to the right person and provide an opening that gives you permission to go and talk to them.
We've actually seen this before.
Yeah.
So there was a client that we had that was 3 weeks that were doing lean startup principles for large companies. So they had potentially a similar audience with chief technology officers and other people very senior within IT. And they had a problem with these people were busy, they didn't have the time. So what they did was they found, with our help, something that they could send them, which was actually chunky, as Adam said, which was a book. And the book was The Lean Startup by Eric Ries. Something that everyone in the industry should have read. A few of them nodded along when they said, are you familiar with it? But what percentage had actually read it? Maybe 5 to 10%. So what we did was, for 3 weeks, is we sent out copies of this book with a note that said, Dear Dave, you're probably familiar with this book. I don't know if you've had the time to read it cover to cover. So here it is from us. Or we can shortcut and save you a whole heap of time. I can tell you what's relevant to your industry right now in the space of 20 minutes, and I'll even buy you a coffee. How about it? So that was a nice example of taking this physical door opener and putting it into practice.
So definitely don't underestimate the value of going for these old school marketing techniques. No one else is sending sales letters anymore. No one else is sending things in the mail. It's valuable if you're the one who's doing it. So look, that opens the conversation. That gives you a reason to call up and have a chat. And having something appear in the mail makes such a difference to how likely they'll actually talk to you when you make that phone call. So ideally you want to get face-to-face with them because, Marcus, it sounds like once you're in front of them, you can make that sale, you can tell the story about customization, all the things that make your offering great. If they're not ready for a conversation, if they're fobbing you off, you want to put them into an online nurturing pipeline. You want to use a platform like Marketo, HubSpot. Infusionsoft is probably a good place to start for a business of your size, where you can put them into an online nurturing pipeline where you're sending them content of value over a period of time, however long it takes for your people to make a decision because they've got contracts that they currently need to wind up or there's other things going on. So something like the 10 customizations that make the biggest difference to IT management in companies like yours. They'll get one email every fortnight over a period of, say, 20 weeks, giving you that top of mind presence. You're back in the inbox again, reminding them. You don't start with this though. There's enough emails going around until you've got that emotional connection, you've already made that link. You want to start with that and then get on to the nurturing pipeline.
There's something interesting around nurturing and follow-ups. It's basically having a content play that's based on pain. And one of the things that a lot of industries focus on in professional services is certainly they focus on gain too much and they don't quantify, take prospects to the place of pain and unpack that, because pain is a far greater motivator than gain in most situations for most people. So what we can actually do is use something called basically pain quantification. So you can go through and look in terms of IT management, training, certification, etc. What are the common pain points? Because people are familiar with the pain, they're just not familiar with how much that pain is costing them. And if you could provide a framework or a tool around that. Do you remember the Restaurant Diary one?
Yeah, great. So Restaurant Diary was a company that offered an online booking system for restaurants. It cost somewhere around $350 a month, which is massively expensive step up from using a paper diary like restaurants tend
which is $20 a year.
So the challenge they're facing, similar to yours, you don't always get through the right people. And when you get in front of someone who needs to be able to refer you to another manager, to another business owner, for example. In your case, you get to the junior manager when the CFO needs to sign off on this. You've got to give them a tool where they can actually communicate the value and communicate the quantified pain. So for Restaurant Diary, we built a tool called Paper Cuts, which actually mapped out the financial cost of a paper diary. Because if you're losing X number of bookings a week, and they're worth this much, that's how much you're losing because you just didn't follow up and remind them. If they've cancelled and you forget to follow up on them, that's worth this many bookings a week. It adds up to a pretty significant number. It makes $350 a month seem like peanuts.
And it's really easy, just bandwidth, probability, summation. So bringing that all together for you, the first step is always get your message right. And the place to look there is making sure you have a predatory rather than a generic message. From there you can actually look against the audiences that you're potentially going to gain that traction from and create smart choice checklists. The things where you can put a tick in the box for you that you can't from where the service is currently being provided. We then move into quantification of pain, of making sure you create tools, systems, potentially content that let people quantify what is the real pain of inaction or acting inefficiently or using one of these other inferior solutions. We then move into the pipeline as Adam laid out up there for you. What's interesting about the pipeline is LinkedIn will give you really powerful information around who these people are and contacting them. You then flip gears and move into that physical door opener, something of true remarkability and relevance, and then make sure that if you do get in, if you do get a nibble on the lead, that you make sure you have a nurturing pipeline. Land that on a high-tech information marketing automation platform, something like Infusionsoft, and you'll be well on your way to making sure that you get to the right people with the right message on time. Speaking of time,
Right on time.
right on time.
Good summary, Ash. Wonderful. So, Marcus, thank you so much for your question. Thank you for emailing that through. We hope you got a lot of value out of it, and look, we're going to find out one way or another. The voting is coming up in just a second. You get to vote. Did we pass? Was there something useful? Is that strategy going to work for you, or were we stumped? Did we fall in a ditch talking nonsense?
I feel really robbed of the live audience feedback and interaction here, actually.
Look, normally the crowd goes wild.
It's like, congratulations, you got a click.
It's nice when we have 200 people clapping and applauding in adulation.
But it's not happening today, is it?
It's not.
No.
So the results are coming in.
I'm sure psychologists have done experiments instead of giving...
Hey, 100%
Hey!
pass.
Instead of giving kids hugs, kisses, and cuddles, we give them clicks. Maybe it's
Excellent.
be an interesting psychological
That's
experiment.
really wonderful. Thank you so much again, Marcus, for asking that question. Again, if you've just tuned in, if you missed the start of the question, this recording will be up on the Stump The Strategist website, stumpthestrategist.com. You can also see some of our past questions there as well, some of the highlights and more challenging ones. There's even Ash playing a guitar in one of them. Yeah, that's right. I put that one on when you weren't looking. So, for those of you who just joined us, Stump The Strategist, we're taking your chewiest marketing challenges. Whatever you're sitting on in marketing strategy, brand strategy, what's going on in sales, what's going on in your business. We're going to put 9 minutes up on the clock here. Then Ashton, head of strategy at Step Change Marketing, myself, are going to build you a strategy that you can take away and start using. So 2 ways that you can ask your question. One is in the chat box in the GoToMeeting panel that you've got right there. The other is by emailing us at stumpme@stepchangemarketing.com. Now we do run these every 2 weeks, every second Wednesday at lunchtime. So if something comes up next week or you're in a meeting, you think, geez, we're a bit stuck on that bit of strategy. Look, send us an email, stumpme@stepchangemarketing.com. We'll be able to get to it next week as well. So with that, let's get on to the next question.
Pete McWilliams
Yeah.
has raised his hand.
Oh, virtually.
Virtual raised hand. So we're going to unmute you now, Peter.
G'day, Peter.
He sounds like a Dalek.
Uh-oh. Did he accidentally raise his hand?
He really does sound like Davros.
Oh. Well, that was your chance, Peter.
Okay.
He is muted.
The tough world of online censorship.
Maybe for Pet's company he could get an IT management trainer in to maybe help with some of those
I know
IT
someone
issues.
who does a little bit of IT management.
Absolutely.
All right, so look, Dave, if there are no other questions, we'll go to one of the ones emailed through in the
We'll go
last
to the
week.
email.
Yep, great. So this one is anonymous, which is always a little bit exciting and worrying at the same time. But I can see why it's anonymous, because it's someone who's a divisional manager at a bank. Not one of the biggest banks, but a significant bank. So we'll respect the anonymity there. So this person is a divisional manager and runs with a team of 30.
They know all about you. You just know nothing about them.
This is what the internet is all about.
Yeah, okay.
We're bearing all here. So runs a team of 30, has some staff that are real go-getters, but others that aren't quite stepping up. Now, the work they do is pretty unique, but after some time, the other banks have caught up to what this
Does it
division
say
does.
what category of work?
Doesn't say. Something in banking.
Right.
So, great. So, I'm preparing for 2015.
Yeah.
I'm putting together the strategy for 2015. Where would you start, and what role do you think the team should play? Great. So, division of a bank
Yeah.
has been innovative. Other banks have caught up. Strategy and planning for 2015. Where to start, and what role should the team play? Okay. So, we don't know whether they're online or not, so no clarifying questions. We're going to jump straight into it. Let's start the clock and take it away.
Okay. So a lot of planning assumes wrongly that the world conforms to your planning cycle. And unfortunately, we've seen strategic planning cycles that last anywhere up to almost 6 to 18 months to do the planning. And when you spend that long in the planning, by the time you get to the end, the world has changed. So we approach strategy and planning with what we call our agile planning approach. I think it's probably worth covering up some of those steps, some of those approaches. So where do you start? You always start with something that we call purpose.
Give me reading my half of the whiteboard again, Ash. He always does this.
Well, you take it then. Away you go.
So look, I've just mapped out the kids kit as a starting point. So a typical strategy cycle is quite intense, quite in depth. You wouldn't spend less than a few days with your full team working on it to get something that everybody rallies around. But the kids kit version to start off with is what we call this post-norm. So purpose, objective, strategy and tactics. Your purpose is the reason you get out of bed in the morning. Now, we're not talking about mission, vision and values. In a business like yours, a large bank, that's obviously coming from the top. What we're talking about is your contributing purpose. Your division, how does that contribute to the overall mission and vision of the organisation? Now, this is worth codifying as something that touch, moves and inspires both you, your staff and your customers. So to give an example, one of my favourites is the Virgin group of companies. Their purpose, no, I'm not using mission here, I'm using the word purpose. Their purpose is David slaying Goliaths wherever they sleep. David slaying Goliaths wherever they sleep. And what that means is that anytime Virgin enters a new category, you get a bit of a sense of what they're all about. That they're the little guy going to shake up the industry, shake things up. Coca-Cola is a good one as well. So Coca-Cola's purpose is to share happiness with the world. And what they do is match it with a commercial ambition. So for Coca-Cola, is to have a Coke within arm's reach of anyone, anywhere in the world. And that, as a framework, as a guiding policy, gives them a lot of instruction across the company on what they should be doing, focusing on in terms of product, focusing on in terms of marketing, and focusing in terms of distribution. So this is where you start before you even get down to the level of strategy. It's why you're doing what you're doing.
As being part of a large bank as well, you may find at this level there's generic mission statements, there's generic vision statements, and it's hard to get clarity around that. So often rerunning that exercise at the organisational level is a really helpful thing to do. We can then have something that's called contributing purpose, and when we've worked for large organisations like Fairfax, Sony, etc., we have actually looked at, if that's the organisational purpose, how does my division contribute back to that purpose? How does my division play its part in this larger game? And then, as Adam said, one of the things where purpose goes wrong is they don't distinguish the commercial lens. So you end up with these nonsense purpose statements like, we want to maximise shareholder value, which was when I think Ford went into Chapter 11 bankruptcy. That was their mission statement. When they set off, their purpose from Henry Ford was to, we want to help Americans explore this great land. The ambition then was a Ford in every driveway of America. So you see the differences. If an organisation does not have a commercial lens, then it's playing a nonsense game. If it tries to put the commercial lens into the purpose isn't relevant for the staff, for the stakeholders, and for the customers, most importantly. So you need to create a purpose that will touch, move and inspire all the stakeholders, but you need to be aware that without an ambition, a commercial lens, you fall short.
So as a broad framework, going to the next step is really setting the objectives, and these are the measures that you want to move. Now, objectives don't come out of thin air.
Just to jump in there.
Yeah.
I've just augmented. I was looking at your side.
Hold your horses one sec. Objectives don't happen in isolation. They come from context. And actions written
I knew
in the
you.
board.
I knew you.
And having recognised the tool you've just drawn,
Yeah.
your objectives can't start from understanding that context.
So,
how do you do that?
So the tool that we use, is, as Adam said, with things moving so quickly, we want to try and get our context on a page. The tool that we have for that's called the Strategic Radar, and it uses a lot of the inputs of like Porter's 5 Forces, the Boston Consulting Group, Matrix, those types of things, but essentially plays across 4 boxes where you've got opportunities and challenges, you have internal and external, and you get 4 quadrants appear. So you have up the top customer trends, competitive activities and environmental factors, either turn into opportunities or challenges depending on which side of the coin that you're on. Down the bottom we then have this innovation quadrant here, which is sustainable competitive advantage. We said that this bank was innovative in the past. What shows up here is probably a lack of an innovation pipeline. We then move into this bottom right-hand corner here, which is where we get stuck. So is it the people, is it the funding, is at the processes. So where are we currently getting stuck or our internal barriers? The key thing is that your purpose goes in the middle and creates the filter for this. And then the magic of a strategic radar versus a SWOT that tends to be just a long list of factors is that we actually put across time frames and lenses. You get 1,000 days, you get 3 to 7 years, you get 7 to 10 years. Then that forces you to really start prioritizing the factors of influence so you're very clear on your context.
So moving quickly with 3 minutes left, there was something else in your question that I want to touch on, which is you said in the past the work that you've done has been quite innovative, but others have caught up. So if innovation is something that needs to happen as part of your strategy, you need to get clear on that up front as well, because innovations often die without having the right support up front, or what we call monolithic planning, which again is something 3 weeks references a lot, the lean startup for IT. Now monolithic planning is when you say, right, we're going to do something innovative and it looks like this, we set aside a budget, 2 years of preparation, we're going to launch in 2 years and hope it works. Now what that doesn't acknowledge is that the context is constantly changing. So setting up for innovation means getting really clear on what assumptions you're trying to move, what objectives, which is the numbers that you're trying to move, and that's what your strategy is all about, moving those numbers at the end of the day, and making sure that you've got the pipeline to actually get innovation from idea into action. And that's a whole set of strategy work all on its own, so I won't go any further into that.
But what you can do is the assumptions give you the platforms of hypotheses that leads to the creativity. And I guess the big breakthrough, and especially being a bank or a large organisation, is this shift from fail-safe thinking, of thinking that you need to plan and document and have everything in line prior to moving, instead of fail-safe. How can I create safe, small, safe-fail experiments and get moving quickly? Because it's not the big take the small anymore, it's the fast that take the slow. So one of the shifts, and when you talked about what's the role of your team should be contributing along every step of the way, but also creating the foundations in terms of the attitudes that are needed to shift from strategy to implementation. It's a big one though, from safe fail to fail safe, and getting test, learn, refine, repeat. Can you just wrap up with your model, Adam?
Yeah, sure. Look, the final bit with the strategy is the strategy comes from a diagnosis with the context of what the opportunities and challenges are, knowing what are the numbers that you need to move. The strategy is how you actually shift it. And strategy is about choice. It's about what you don't do as much as what you decide to do.
Yeah.
Now, the biggest mistake that happens here, firstly, is people don't make a choice at all. They say, oh, we're going to do everything and improve our profitability and customer service levels and everything else, instead of having a focus. Or they masquerade objectives as strategy. They say, our strategy is to be the biggest bank. That's not a strategy. That's an outcome that comes from something else. I've drawn the line here at tactics because that's for your team to go away and work out and own for themselves. So start with purpose, understand your context to drive your objectives, build your strategy to shift those numbers, and let your team build the tactics afterwards. But make sure your team's around, make sure you're doing it together.
I'll give you a round of applause so you feel special.
Yay! Thank you. And the live audience of two.
The live audience of two go nuts. Okay.
Wow, alright, so thank you Anonymous for your question. Understand the reasons for anonymity, and we're more than welcome to happy to take anonymous questions again in the future.
Yep.
Having said that, the best kinds of questions are specific. The more specific you can be about your situation, your challenge, the more specific we can be in our answers. So, big question now. How did we go with that one? Did we fall in a ditch? Was there something valuable? Are you all going to take this away and start your financial year planning with this? Or did we fall in a ditch?
You can actually vote anonymously as well. Any anonymous voters?
Very good. So, just as we're waiting for those to come through, a quick
It's
reminder.
like polling day in an election, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, Roy and HG getting out and
Have you
doing
got an
the
acceptance
analysis.
speech and a conceding speech prepared?
Well, we haven't been stumped all that often.
Right, okay.
It has happened. It has happened. So if you missed anything in today's recording, you can get it online on the website afterwards. Here's the results. 100% passed again. Jeez, that's good news.
I'll give another round of applause.
Yay! You guys are very generous, thank you. So that's all we've got time for today in terms of questions, but you can ask your questions by emailing us, stumpme@stepchange.
Was that stumpme@stepchangemarketing.com?
You got it.
Excellent.
Or jump online in 2 Wednesdays' time. We'll be able to take your questions once again.
But certainly around taking that next step of moving some of these answers into action, there is a stack of content and information and tools available on our blog. One of the things that we do have is called Brandbox, a Marketer's Ultimate Toolkit. So taking your brand and your business forward, it's worth signing up for that. At the back of each of those editions, there's 6 of them in total, is a toolkit of the actual tools we use to solve problems for clients live. So that's available to the guys who've turned up.
Yep.
Just grab it on the website.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Adam Long, the General Manager at Step Change Marketing.
Ashton Bishop, Head of Strategy. We'll see you next time.
Been a pleasure.
Bye-bye.